okay, we're back on the floor because we're doing another one of those every single thingy I sold and the reason why. So here we are. This is an idea stolen from the modular creator Warbass, who did a beautiful video of all the stuff he sold in the past. Check out his video. So let's go. Some of these are kind of boring. Some of these are literally just I got a bigger case and my priorities changed a little bit. The first module I ever sold, the ALM Busy Circuits Pip Slope MK2. I think I sold it because I didn't really understand how to use it because I was just starting out. I kind of want it back. Function generator, I guess you would call it. It's cool. I'll probably buy it again. All right, the next thing I sold, the 2HP Pluck. It's like a 2HP version of rings, that physical modeling like string kind of thing. I sold it because it didn't quite fit in my case. I had the pallet case at the time. The 2HP stuff is quite deep because it's so skinny it has to make up for that lack of surface area somehow. So A, it didn't fit. I made a video of it, of kind of flicking it and it bouncing around. It also sounded kind of out of tune all the time. It would be nice in one octave, but when you do any kind of jumps, I couldn't handle how like out of tune the tuning was, so it had to go. The next thing I sold, the Make Noise STO. I had no issue with this whatsoever. I was just using Novation Circuit Mono to sequence back then. A little analog synth with CV sequencer available. So it just kind of felt redundant to me. It was a cool module though. I think it's like a great synth voice because it's a digital version of analog waveform. So you could do a little bit more with it than an analog synth could do. Yeah, STO is cool. My first and only Make Noise module though. That's kind of weird. Next sale, the Calsynth uBurst. It's like a mutable clouds clone. Clouds is fun. We all love clouds, right? I wanted it to do certain things, and it would just kind of do whatever it wanted, I felt like. And maybe I needed to learn it deeper, but it would kind of take my synth voice for a little ride. I wanted to be in charge of the ride. Pretty much immediately after that, I sold the Endorphines Sqwk Dirty to Me, a filter. I think it was the second filter I had bought. And I just ended up keeping the original filter I bought, which is the Popple, which I still have. The Sqwk to me was just noisy. And I've read that a lot of their stuff tends to be a little bit noisy. It's not like a scratchy pot sound, but it's just this little extra blip of digital static that I didn't want. I think I sold it for really cheap too. So I think the word is out. Okay. Next we get into the Mosaic 1U stuff because I think I had probably upgraded my case at that point. Like I said, I was using the old palette, which I can't seem to get rid of. One day I feel like I'm going to fill this thing up again, but I probably never will. So this just sits on my shelf gathering dust. It's got stickers from Etsy on it. I love this thing. So Mosaic 1U, an excellent 1U company if you need to fill some space. I bought the state variable filter. Maybe having a filter on the top 1U rack would be kind of cool. I never see people do that. It just wasn't like filtery enough for me. I don't think I need the other versions of a filter. I don't really use bandpass or anything like that. It was sold. There you go. Oh, I sold the ALM Busy Circuits Pamela's new workout because I had two because I was trying to get the big rack and the little rack to be their own separate things. I'm a ding dong, so I feel like I can't do modular synth without Pamela's new workout. But anyway, I kind of killed the small case. I didn't need the second PAMs anymore. If I ever fill this thing up again, I will likely buy another PAMs. I'll probably get the new one. It's just way too useful. Oh, so when I got my Rack Brute case, I bought this Tapographic delay from 4MS, and it was just having power-up issues. It wasn't really working. I emailed them, and they said specifically it doesn't work with Rack Brute power for whatever reason. No biggie there. It was kind of a cool module. You could tap out your delay clicks. It would power up like 50% of the time. And those times it was fun, but the other times it would just be off and useless to me. So it had to go. It's big and it took up a lot of space. Next thing I sold was the Intellijel Line In. I'm stupid and didn't realize I need a line in and a line out to play guitar through a synth. You don't really need it, but I didn't want to have to go through a mixer to attenuate the signal. So that was fun for a little bit. I made some cool videos with that and sold it to the next guy. They're like $30. If you want to play guitar through your modular, spend $30 and try it out. It's sort of fun. The next was another Mosaic 1U Quantizer. Simplest quantizer ever. It's just one single piano roll and a trigger, basically, in, out, and a trigger. Easy, simple quantizer. I actually love that thing, but I got away from the 1U stuff. The next module was the QuBit Aurora, I guess, reverb, they call it. I think they call it like spectral analyzer or something like that. I really disliked this thing. It sounded like ogres crushing the tones I was sending through it. Probably would be very useful to some people, but I like a little cleaner reverb tones. I didn't realize that it was quite so weird, so that one just didn't work for me. I sold the After Later Mutables Pique clone. I had the 1U thing, just because it was 1U. I didn't like that it was this shiny black and it would just collect dust. I had to dust it off with a paintbrush anytime I would film it at all, because I don't want to have dusty modules. That's lame. So that was sold. Another 1U one from Mosaic. It was their bass drum module, which got me kind of started on bass drum modules. I love them now, and bass drum modules that have pitch control, I tend to really like a lot. So I had a lot of fun with that thing. It's very soft kick drum. I wouldn't really use it for kick, but it's kind of like a thudding bass tone. I liked it, but I didn't want any more 1U stuff. Next, the DivKid Mutes. It's just 4 mutes, little momentary switchers. I liked what it did a lot. It was like having a little momentary bypass switcher for anything, CV or audio, whatever. The only issue I had with it, the little switches were kind of hard to push. You had to like put a little bit of strength into it, so it would kind of bounce your case around. And if you're trying to film yourself and do all the stupid crap that Eurorack people do, it made things bounce around, and you just don't want that with a camera setup. And it just kind of stopped being as useful to me after a little while of momentarily muting things. But it was solid piece. It was very quiet. Next, the Befaco Kickall. That was my second kick module. Super fun sounding. It kind of reminded me of the Korg Volca kick, which I always loved because it's so weird and so extreme with the parameters. Like one little knob twist, you're like 5 octaves up all of a sudden. But every time I would go to record the Kickall, it would just kind of sound like a flub, a little flubby balloon beach ball like sound. It's moved on to a new home. The Tiptop Audio MODFX chorus flanger and filter. I never saw a proper demo from this thing. Since I'm such a bonehead and don't read manuals, I could never figure out how to use this thing properly. It's a weird module. It's not like a Boss flanger pedal. It's this weird time suck thing that happens. It sounded cool. I just wanted more control over it. It would never do what I hoped it would do. It was kind of doing its own thing. I don't really want quite so much weirdness in my setup right now. I want like a little more classic sounding things going on. All right, the next thing I sold, I feel like an idiot about this. The Noise Engineering Imitor Versio, a very cool delay module that I got so much use out of. One day it just started to drive me crazy because the lowest setting would always be 3 little pings. That was the least you could get out of it. And I wanted to have the freedom to do 1 single ping, which is maybe too much to ask for out of a Eurorack module. I almost immediately bought another Versio, and I could have just swapped it to something else, but instead I sold it and paid another $350 or whatever for a new one. Very cool module though. It's so tweakable, and like every little tweak you do is very musical. I'm just a weirdo and had to get a new delay that wasn't that one. I had another Mosaic 1U low pass filter. I guess I replaced the variable filter with this one. The whole top rack filter thing, it just doesn't work because the filter you're very, very hands-on with. And for something to be 1U, it's going to have to be kind of cramped into 1U. So it's not very playable. You're right up next to your resonance knob. Anyway, that thing sounded nice. It was very smooth. It was like one of the smoothest filters I've ever used. Next thing I sold was the Intellijel Sealegs stereo delay and reverb. This thing sounded incredible. It just didn't have quite as much extreme control over it. You would max out the feedback, and it wouldn't do that kind of oscillation feedback thing that like a Boss DM, whatever the heck, DM1, DM2, I don't know, whatever that thing's called. It wouldn't do that, and I wanted it to be a little more aggressive and dirty. Aside from that, it sounded beautiful, and I do sort of miss the thing. It was very large, though. I think I actually made like $1 profit off that. That was cool. I think the last thing I sold was the Noise Engineering Tymp Legio digital percussion voice. I use this thing for hi-hats, occasionally for kick drums too. It just sounded kind of weird. I don't know, maybe I should have sent it through more effects or something, but that thing dry, it just sounded like a digital tone, like an old school synthesizer that just doesn't sound that hip anymore. It doesn't even have like nostalgic hipness. Another thing from them I should have kept and just swapped over the firmware to something else, because there's definitely a lot of Legio things that I would love to try out. I'm such a weirdo. I want to get things out of here and replace them immediately, so I sold it off. What modules have you sold that you either regret or you're happy about? Did you replace something that you're super stoked on? I'm pretty happy with my setup currently. I am going to purchase some things soon. That's just the world. That's just the Eurorack world. You can't be totally satisfied with your whole setup. That would be insane. So that's my list of things from my Reverb app. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe. Happy January. Bye.